All right. Here we go. All right, a Tuesday. What's happening, everyone? Tuesday. Double shot Tuesday, I guess. That's what they used to say in Radio Land. How's everybody doing today? A little bit better. I think we got everything worked out. Should not have any issues today on our 101st podcast. So let's do a 101 session. Let's do some basics. Let's get the new people caught up, and let's get the experienced people a nice little review on essential 101 harmonic pattern strategies, measurements, type 1, type 2, and how they fit into the current situation with crypto and everything else that we're looking at. Pretty clear. We're just in a little reactive bounce and starting to roll over. Bitcoin came back, retested the bat pattern on the hourly. We mentioned this yesterday. You have a couple patterns on the hourly, several back to back. All of this, just really quick, let's get some numbers out of the way for Bitcoin. 22,000 is your ceiling. 22,000, folks. I don't expect Bitcoin to be trading over 22,000 anytime soon. I think you're still going to be stuck in this range here. You bounce between, say, 19, 18, and 22 maximum, but we're probably closer to the resistance and looks like we want to roll over. Coming into the end of the month on Thursday, and we will be back on Thursday at 12 noon. We'll see how it shapes up, but not a heck of a lot of impressive action. So big shout out to everybody in the chat. What's up? How you doing? Claire, J Togs, the Harmoniholic. I love it. Arun, Peckham. Hello, Miss Stephanie. I know. We will talk soon. David, what's going on? Thank you for sending that to me, by the way. David, I looked at that extensively. Nice little cheat sheet. A couple other things people are putting together. I appreciate it. So let's get into it. Bitcoin, what are we going to do? What can we expect, maybe is a better way to phrase it, because down at that 17K level on the 4-hour chart, look what's going on. A lot of just stalling action, no follow through, and these are usually how they begin. Little violation of a trend line, and then you start to just whittle it down. Come on down. And this is where basics like a trend line, basics like understanding what your indicator direction is suggesting, which is, I think, pretty clear. HSI is still in a downtrend. Amplified after doing a rather long, extended, complex formation has hit the 50. Green line's gone on. All of this is favoring a grind down to the next oversold. So that's setting up again for, more fun for Bitcoin holders. And it just seems like, this summer action is going to be a rough ride. It's going to require a lot of work. And we're still, this counter trend bounce that we've been talking about as a short-term pause, not really even much. If you recall last week, and this was actually, I think, a pretty good illustration of how weak of a recovery last week was. I mean, the fact that you actually formed a bullish candle on the week, okay, that does say at least it's a little exhausted for now. And even if we look at that candle, remember we were doing the 382. Where's that 382 level? It got to 46, not even 50%. Again, 22,000 on Bitcoin. If you're worried about Bitcoin or you're worried about missing out on anything, well, you got this. There's a long way to go. So that's the deal with just looking at it against last week's candle. That's where we are. Against last week's candle, folks, or 2 weeks ago, that is, that's your defining range. And until you do something in here, you're still extremely down. Also, take a look at how much progress we are not really even making on the indicators. All right, that's amplified RSI blown up. And again, we're looking for a W stabilization. Can we get something like this in the next 2-3 weeks? Is that going to be July? Is July going to form the complex formation, stabilization? What we know about these formations is that they take more time. Certainly, I think everyone can say that this formation is different than this formation. Just the sheer amount of time in the extreme oversold versus a beautiful V-shape impulsive reading. So as you're doing that and you're still oversold, it kind of negates anything that can appear, at least until these things pop out. I would love to see weekly come out of the extreme pretty soon and start the process. But as I was saying yesterday, we're trying to get to that starting line where the stabilization, a setup of a potential bullish divergence could take shape down at these lower levels, but still not there. Yeah, Snipes, how you doing, by the way? Yes, it's very ugly. I mean, ugly is, I think, an understatement. It just doesn't have, it's not in the right position yet to even be considered a turnaround of any regard. Even any kind of a small bear bounce with this continuing kind of languishing behavior, this will take more time. So you have to be patient with it. It's just how it goes right now. Some of the other ones that I mentioned briefly yesterday look like they're going to come back. I mentioned some metaverse, and a lot of the ones, remember, the takeaway from yesterday was simply the fact that we got some bearish candles on the daily, bearish HSI, like here's Decentraland, bearish HSI signal within a bullish trend says still lower and more time until we register another HSI or even at a minimum come back to that 75 level. Yikes. That's still nowhere near confirming a larger move. The fact that you ran into this HSI after the confirmation, look, there's the zone on the crab pattern for mana. And I mean, does a nice check back confirmation. But what happens on that first shot, which is common with patterns, that you run into an overbought extreme, you run into a counter extreme where the reaction only gives you a minimum bounce and then it gets exhausted pretty quickly. All right. And then starts to roll over like it is. Well, think of this as just another little mini cycle within the zone where you came up, now you come back down for basically the same amount. We'll assess it back down in this lower zone. There's a lot of these that have set up like that recently and are now going to roll back over. Something I didn't talk about yesterday, here's crypto.com, did the same thing. Big, beautiful shark pattern. Bat pattern. And on basically every feed. Massive bat pattern. You finally trigger HSI all the way down here about 10 cents. And then what happens? The reactive force is a dud. It's a busted balloon. You just you come off of that trigger point and then you run right into an overbought reading that can't continue. Now you're breaking down. All you need to see is under 12 cents and crypto.com will come all the way back down to this 9 level. Really important to line this stuff up now, because if we can come back and retest the lows from 2 weeks ago, that would be a pretty good position. I mean, again, this is where harmonic patterns as targets can serve you well, not only as actionable levels, but for getting an idea of what this is going to do within the pattern framework. What we're looking at here is simply a dud reaction that got quickly overbought again, and now ready to come back down. Something else, a little basic 101 strategy. Again, as I was saying, our indicator structure is important. If we have a W formation, which we do on amplified, looks like this. All right, there's your X to A, your B point, your C point. All three of those points are underneath the extreme to give you the W. And what does the W do? Typically runs to the 50. And again, we understand that this is the expected action all the way down here and up at the 50, that the larger signal will not generate until we have a retest. And yes, that could fail, because look at the prior reading. Look at this. Back-to-back complex. Another W formation, complex formation in the zone that went to the 50 level, but we already assume that with the complex. As soon as that comes out, we still know that's reaction. That's it. That's how we have to read this. These are the basic interpretations that the patterns, the indicator formations give us to how we know. We know that this thing currently, crypto.com, green line's going on with your amplified RSI right there. A lot of people ask me what that means. That means you have a complex formation, it hit the 50. When that green line goes on, you start to look for the rollover. Okay, because that will eventually get retested. Sometimes it takes a while, other times it's pretty quick, but the larger setup is to complete that entire RSI BAM, maybe even come back down one more time here. But look, you got a ways to go. A lot of these altcoins look like that. I know someone said Solana. Let's pull that up really quick. Similar deal. Well, that's not as bad as I thought, but you have another. This is the thing with all of these altcoins. They all registered harmonic strength index in the last couple of days in bullish zones across the board. Bullish zones across the board. Running into these indicators means more time consolidating at current to lower prices. Not to mention, here's amplified RSI for Solana. Check it out. Green line's on. We got to come back retest. Have to come back and retest. So, you know, it's still early in this move. Beautiful pattern. Look, the daily, weekly are the same thing. Solana, look at that weekly. And this is the check back depending on your altcoin. And this is the other thing. Some, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, on their weeklies probably are a week or 2 weeks away before they trigger on their indicators on the weekly time frame. Solana and several others, they did register. So check out the ones, highlight the ones we've already mentioned. But Solana's a good one where the trigger comes here on the close for the week. Then we have to come back down. It's another basic HSI technique. But look, you're here. Okay, you're there, and you want to retest in the ideal situation. Basically 32 and change, 32.40. And that's the standard strategy of how we look at that. Remember, the sequence, another 101 basic strategy. Terminal bar, bang. That's where the pattern completes. But that's not the trade. The trade comes after the confirmation. And that confirmation registered on Sunday. But we still have to have the check back. Retest this zone. I mean, this is fair game right where we are right now. The ideal check back is the prior low of that bar. That's around 32 bucks. Final piece to all of this is tell me what is happening with your RSI indicator component. Coming out, great. Now, here's another important strategy that needs to be happening with your standard RSI, because that's a leading indicator that's going to go before anything else. We need to get that not only in the right direction, but you really can't expect acceleration until you get above the 50 level for that whole confirmation. Beautiful thing is you do have HSI, you have amplified linking up, so those are good early signs, but again, emphasis on early. Big emphasis on early. Where you want to avoid the drawdown. You want to avoid that drawdown. You want to avoid being early. That was probably one of my most challenging aspects of fine-tuning patterns was I was always early and just realized there was a lot of avoidable drawdown. So we try to distill that with the terminal bar icon and HSI arrow. All right, there's your sun icon. The arrow relates to this indicator. Oh, if I don't pull the price out, hold on. What did I do? Hold on. Nice. Let me change this back. Fixed it. Great. And so we'll monitor that closely. If you go into your 60-minute, basically any altcoin, you're going to see a lot of stuff like this. Here's Cardano. Bitcoin did it too. Cardano, couple of bearish patterns here. Your only bullish pattern is a butterfly back down to this 42 to 40 cents. So this is 2 of 2 on Cardano. Off of that shark, type 1, come back all the way to the hop with confirmation at around 52. I would expect 46 cents pretty soon. Absolutely want to be watching that closely. You also know it's not ready. Look at the HSI. Just one of the easiest ways you come into any time frame. What's the last HSI? On the hourly, bearish. Bearish. I need to see a bullish reading. I need to see a bullish HSI reading on Cardano. And look at the HSI indicator. Needs to come all the way down. But it's, you know, I think you could get some interesting development if you can have a successful retest. Because look, even HSI on Cardano, checking back. That check back on the weekly is about 46 cents. So don't be surprised you see that. Come back there and have it base, much like we did back here in October of 21. I'm thinking that's more of what we're starting to see. If we can get a trigger, we can get some development. Don't be surprised to see this go sideways for 8 weeks. It's done it before at extreme important inflection points. It can do it again. Here's a quick question, and I think it's a great question. So thanks, Vincent. I appreciate the question. He says, hey, Scott, I'm deliberately learning and practicing harmonics, but I struggled at trying to construct the PRZ since you plot the patterns from scratch. Okay, so perfect segue into, you know what I'm going to say. First of all, if you're going to learn it by hand or whatever, you still need to get the software. Why? Because you're going to have stuff like this. Here's Sandbox, something I mentioned yesterday. Where's the bat pattern here? Because The software is picking it up at a different point than we could expect. Traditionally, you might look at something like this and go to the daily here. All right, that's even a little bit better on the daily. But say, at what point do I start my drawing? And this is something that, hey, I had to encounter for years because there was discrepancies. You could go like this and draw it manually by hand and say, okay, 886, that's the bat pattern. It's like right there. But even then, you're still early. That's a model framework. And so what I recommend is that you get the software, which you can do at harmonictrader.com, and you get a free trial. All right, go to Harmonic Trader and just sign up as a basic member. And what you want to do is study the material. Okay, study the books, look at the models. Here's where you go. Go to the home page. All right, and that you just sign up straight off the home page, and then go to the basic members. So if you're early in your journey and you really want to learn the absolute basics, you go get volume 1. You just download, click that, and you start looking at the pattern metrics, everything that's laid out here in volume 1, and start with the important primary numbers. That actually is the starting point of all of it. And if you want to understand where these numbers come from, go through that book, go through that introduction. Look at what is happening in nature, what is happening in cycles of the market. Okay, and remember, it's a framework. It's not a black box. It's a framework. It's a starting point. But then you'll get into looking at, say, the different patterns and components of the patterns. Why is this? Here you go. Here's a bat pattern. It's a perfect bat pattern, but you will then learn these configurations, which are essential. All of that's in volume 1. But what you need to do is then translate that with the software that generates the algos automatically to understand, okay, why is it generating here? There's specific proportions, there's specific ABCD parameters, and compare the two. Still, everything from an actionable opportunity does not begin until after the pattern completes. So it is important to get your pattern identification correct. And you have to have the true harmonic algos, or you're going to be fishing in the wrong spot. So check that out. Get with the software and practice, practice, practice. Listen, this is something that you need to expose yourself to as many situations as possible, either long term. If you don't have a lot of time, do daily. If you can spend an hour or two in front of the screen, pull up a 30-second chart on futures, or pull up an hourly chart. I mean, I'll get to Nasdaq in a minute and show you some of the things of why we're rolling over today and why we're down 275 on the Nasdaq. But the strategies are universal. So your starting point is always where the pattern completes. But the actionability of the trade off of that pattern does not even begin until we not only register the confirmation, but we retest it and then apply the management. So if I'm looking at that big bat pattern, it completed all the way back here in May, but the opportunity did not begin until 6 weeks later. That stuff you do not want to learn the hard way. You want to learn that before clicking any buttons, putting money to work. And then take your time. Get comfortable with the pattern alignments and then your confirmation first. Because that's going to put you in the right area where even if you get little bump moves like that, this is very manageable. Here's Sandbox. Your first trigger was 79.80 cents. And that took you up to about 135. But now it's rolling over. With this HSI next to us or in front of us, it's probably a scratch at that point, and then you were going to look for another opportunity. Those are some of the basics. There's a lot of steps in between that, again, Takes some experience. I don't think it should take more than 2 weeks for that light bulb to go on. That's why we do 2 weeks. If you really dig in, you watch our sessions, you look at prior sessions, you look at the webinars, you review the book material, you understand the framework. And then once you're able to understand the framework, you're in your brain, okay, you're setting up the right expectations of reaction or reversal or confirmation, no confirmation. That's critical to deciphering whether or not you're going to have a valid move. I mean, there's patterns forming all over the place, but are you positioned in the right spot with confirmation to capture? That takes experience. That's why we do what we're doing here, to try to highlight that. Some of the longer term stuff, the comparative time frame type stuff here that we see. I mean, it's almost like just reading a cardiogram, if you will. You know, play doctor. Tell me what the heart rate's doing here. Tell me what amplified RSI, our most sensitive indicator. Okay, is that relative strength? Is that amplified relative strength? What is that telling us? There's an extreme. It hit the extreme. It's trying to reverse. Has that done anything that's actionable yet? No, but maybe another week or two, we could register something to get that indicator moving along with HSI on the weekly. You put that together step by step. There's a 5-minute pattern on the bat right now on Bitcoin. All right, I'll look at that really quick and then try to wrap this up for crypto because I want to look at the other markets. Here we go. 5-minute pattern. Nice one. Thank you for that. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Your chat name is Stupid Head. You're pretty smart, Stupid Head. We'll call you Smart Head. But we still have, even on a 5-minute, look at what's going on the 5-minute, folks. Exactly the same thing we see on the daily, on this 5-minute chart. All right, you had a bat pattern. This is an alternate bat because your B point's at a 382. That's another 101 strategy. If you don't know, every M and W formation is dictated by where the B point completes. If your B point is less than a 618, we're looking for an 886. If it's within that 618 tolerance, come up, then you get a 786 Gartley. That's the starting point. Gartley versus bat. Learn those differences, then take it to butterfly and crab. But even this, okay, this 5-minute pattern doesn't have confirmation, has got reaction written all over it. And now, and when I say reaction means we only go to target one. And it's an aggressive management position. And then we are extremely defensive if we see things like a bearish HSI candle against our bullish zone, just like we have on the daily. Absolutely, the sequence is critical, but once you learn those signals, you digest them a little bit, when you go through it in real time, then your experience begins to put it together where you can see it happening as it's unfolding. Don't worry if it takes you a little while to really pull it together. Everyone has to go through that harmonic learning curve. You were going off of the swing low to the right of the fifth of the 5-0. I hear you. Give it a little time. I mean, again, if you're not with the software, I really feel like you're wasting time. And for everybody, again, here's the 2-second plug. It's free for a reason, folks, because it does me no good. If you guys don't have a chance to look at this and see what it's all about, okay, then, an uneducated customer is the worst student. I need you guys to know what's happening before even putting any money up, because it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Once you put it together and you register that framework for what you're doing, then it's pretty easy to understand how valuable the levels that are getting spit out by the software become. Things like proprietary indicators like HSI, so critical to being able to gauge how much of a reaction we can get off of anything. This is not buy and hold in any sense of the word. And if anything, with that kind of a bat pattern, I would already say you go up to target 1 and then we're going to come back for target 2. I already know that's going to happen. That's the type 1, type 2 framework. If you're having trouble clicking button, all right, if you're having trouble putting that together, slow down. Take your time. Gain experience. Start a trading journal. Okay, integrate harmonic strength index, amplified. You can do standard RSI. I've always said that. You can measure by hand, but when you've got the automated algorithms and you've got the proprietary indicators, that's your edge. Okay, and it makes the harmonic pattern process doable, easy, understandable. If you're manually trying to measure everything and you're scanning for all kinds of different opportunities, it's going to be tough. It's really going to be tough to do. It's a lot of work. That's why we have the software. Definitely. Yeah, Ziggy's saying you can't trade without the software. And I would agree. I wouldn't even, I think, even as a learning tool to begin with, and then accessing the books and the resources, the common experience is that, people, once they jump on and they're actually learning the framework and access the free materials, the webinars, join the Discord group, all of that. There you go. Discord, bang, right there. Okay, go on in. Then you're in a whole new world. Then the whole chart opens up for you. But you've got to stick to those essential basic strategies that define the framework. I can't, again, really critical here on the 1 minute time frame. All right, we just trigger our 5 minute. Yeah, you're checking back now. You formed that. You're checking back now, and look what HSI is doing on the 5 minute. And this is as it's happening. So that has to come out. I mean, that just went back in on the 5 minute. But there, right there is where you first start to assess, okay, maybe this reaction has a problem. Look what HSI needs to go back down. Amplified, coming up. Again, that's reaction category right there. Reaction material. Why? Because our RSI indicator has an M formation down here, actually 2 of them, where this is just going to be a reaction up to target 1, almost there, and then we come back down. Understand those parts of it. If you don't know that, if you're not comfortable with all of those pieces, just again, slow it down. Slow it down. It will come to you, and you'll crack that curve, and then it'll get even. It gets easier as you kind of chisel away. Usually, most people don't make it through. If they're not going to make it, they don't make it through the first week. If you make it through the first week, get to week 2, chances are you're going to make it. I do agree with the journal too. If you guys are not recording your thoughts, actions, feelings of the opportunities and things you're looking at, you're missing out on an essential strategy of how to overcome yourself. That's what we have to do. We have to overcome our own irrational fears. We stay within the measured framework. Everything that we do is measured. Again, those are critical basic principles that you either are going to follow them or you're not at your own deficit. I want to look at Binance Coin really quick. Let's look at BNB here. On the weekly, fix that chart. Now again, Binance Coin, probably a good one to be following because again, that's remaining to be one of the strongest that's given, even though it's lost more than half its value. It's lost probably 65, going on almost 70% off the high. that's still holding up better than most. And we do have pretty clear HSI popping out right now on the weekly. The thing I want to see, and again, we know it's early. What's the indicator telling us? Where is amplified RSI? It's still in the oversold. We need to pop out, get out in tandem with HSI for us to get any kind of a counter trend rally. I mean, something maybe up to the downtrend line there, but you're still quite early. You would need to go till Sunday and essentially have this hold, generate the arrow, and then check back this week's range. So you have like 2 more weeks of work to do. Yes, thank you, David. The other platforms, folks, for things like MetaTrader or eSignal, there's our eSignal. I'll talk about that in a second. But again, that's the same deal. That's a deep crab on the hourly from this morning. That's what we are reversing off of right now. We'll look at that in a second. Just before I go, also on this, Ethereum, we talked about this yesterday. That too is not out yet. It can be frustrating, but still not out. Maybe by Thursday we could get some kind of progress to get out of here. Otherwise, if we continue to languish down here and we get a complex structure in standard RSI, that's setting up for many more weeks and months of consolidation in this zone. So everything we see, any kind of pop move, any kind of rally is just going to be a brief reaction. So just be mindful of that. Look at where the metrics are. Look where what the indicator readings are, not only where they are in terms of the number, oversold, overbought, under 30, above 70, but what are the formations down there? What's going on in this oversold extreme? Still taking a lot more time. Much in the same way, and we looked at this yesterday, that as this thing was rallying up and it broke into the extreme all-time high, look, the major trend that took it from basically 500 to almost 4,000, or at least up well above on the first run about 2,000. Look how long and how far that stayed into the overbought. It's a sign of trend continuation. Much like this is, the longer that stays in the oversold, trend will continue until we can get out. Be mindful of that. Really important. I just have been, you're just kind of, you would think it would bounce more. Even with an extreme downtrend, you would think being down 12 weeks in a row, you would see something that would maybe challenge the prior week's bearish pattern. Not so much. Maybe a couple more weeks inside the big candle from 2 weeks ago. A lot going on there. I mean, just a whole lot that needs a lot more time. And even the old ones like Polka Dot and others. Again, here's Dot really quick on the weekly. All-time 886. Triggering, just coming out now. Just coming out this week. Looks like this. And that's pretty easy to make that assessment. You're deeply oversold, and you don't even consider it until you get out of that range. Appreciate that. Yeah, another good comment. You're not quite a harmonic trader, but the spots and many of these in the charts are valid. The levels, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at technicals, you need to look at the harmonic levels. It is unavoidable. If you're at an all-time 886, how many of those have we seen? You need to be aware of the levels and then bring it into the basic M&W framework, the chart begins to open up in a way. It's similar to what they do in Elliott Wave. I just think it's a little more finite. Things like the 30 bar rule, where if I have a Elliott Wave 5-wave structure, those guys are counting waves from 5 years ago. No, our opportunity is pattern completion, okay, indicator confirmation, and then start the clock. You've got 30 bars to do your thing. That helps in a huge way as well, where software will generate. You get your confirmation, which is right there. That was Polkadot from January. And then you expect a type 1 reaction, but we also know the whole management framework has to go within 30 bars. And tell me what it's doing inside of that, that first 10 bars. Are you making any moves or no? These are some basic ideas, folks. They're not, it's more of just kind of moving from identification to execution strategies to management strategies. These are the identification, define the MW formation, get your levels right. Then in your execution phase, you're looking for some kind of RSI or HSI confirmation that comes out of the extreme, and then the management of knowing, expecting reaction every time, first time, and expecting retest type 2 return, then it gets clearer. Of course, you could blow off and just blast through both levels and keep going. But to get there, okay, it all starts with the positioning, because you position yourself in the proper sequence, terminal bar, confirmation, and then you're in that area of where the opportunity should go. You're capturing a manageable reaction that'll give you enough time and space to get out if you have to. I mean, let's say you sit on your hands, it hits target 1 and you don't get out, and you even have HSI confirming right back at that level and you still don't get out. Well, basic trend line will tell you get out once that materializes. I mean, so it looks like this. And you look for another opportunity. That's where we are on daily, weekly, across the board. A lot of these setting up for that second opportunity. The retest, especially weekly, since it's early. And we will see how that does by Sunday. But many of the altcoins registered this week. They registered Sunday night. They're going to check back this week, and then next week we should try to start to see something in those major alts. I'm not saying it's going to explode. I'm just saying by next week, a week from Sunday, let's be specific. Yeah, it's on. It really is on. And we'll look. It doesn't mean it's an instant execution, but the way that the timing and the check back is coming together with a lot of these, you're going to have to come back down one more time, retest it across the board, and then see if you can go. Last one I'll do total. Total crypto market cap sitting right at 900 billion, 906. This too had a bearish HSI on the daily, so still down. Look, it's capping the rally today already. We had the first bullish signal, which was there at about 860 billion. And it didn't get much off of that reaction to where we registered another one at 945 billion. So you're getting squeezed. And it looks like this on the indicator. There's HSI going from overbought to oversold, back up to overbought. So no matter how far that price has gone, if you can just say to yourself, all right, I see an overbought signal. I tried to get long here, and I'm already running into an overbought exhaustion. That means this little segment let a lot of air out of the tire, and it's getting ready to roll back down again. I would even wait for, look, standard amplified RSI has another W formation in the extreme, but didn't even test the 50 level yet. Not very strong. Not a strong reaction. What you'd want to see is a vigorous test of the 50 and then come back down. Retest that prior complex structure and then go on the daily time frame. That would be a big signal. Just not there, especially what we were saying yesterday, the fact that we've run into these HSI bearish triggers in bullish zones is a problem, and it's going to take more time at a minimum, if not come back deeper into this zone to retest. For crypto market cap, that's easily 850 billion minimum. I think probably even more on this retest, because if you look at your daily signal, HSI here, that has a ways to go. You haven't even triggered down under the 50 yet. But keep an eye on it. Again, I think it's just the weak action continues. And until that changes, just trade it. If you're going to trade anything, just trade those type 1 aggressive reactions. Let's get to, let me see if I can bring this in here. Does this work? Hold on one second. Make sure that comes into screen. Yeah, the 30 bar rule, that is in volume 3. Yes, it is. And the 30 bar rule for what we want to see on any trigger, pattern size, it really started with the pattern size, because it's easy to connect dots and say, all right, here's 10 dots, and they actually form a pattern. But the reason why we need 30 is it's a minimum sample size. So that helps to sort out a lot of potentially flawed patterns. And I use that in the algorithms to identify not only the structures, but the swings. And believe me, the reason why you see the quality patterns that you do in the auto-generated patterns is because the design of what we did, from every leg to every tolerance to the alignment, is correct to define the true harmonic level. So here's Nasdaq on the hourly for today. Where's the month-end rally, right? Come on back here. Looks like a deep crab. Deep crab on the hourly, right at 12,242 is the 1618. I think we peaked out around 80, 79. And it's a type 1 that dumped this morning down to 11,806. So call it 1108. What I want to see here for today and actually into tomorrow would be the fact that this deep crab would be important for the week, and still need a 1-2. Come back down, then go back up to retest that crab. And that would take us into next week, where then I'd want to assess really what's the next leg. Can we get down in this area under 11.8, register an HSI signal to start the return to retest the deep crab? If we could do that, and we could get some confirmation up here, yeah, that would be the area I would look for the larger trend continuation. Doing the type 1 move now, 11,806 in that area for Nasdaq. Critical point for the day. For the week, I want to see that pattern get retested, and then what does it do? We know that the daily time frame has failed on Nasdaq. Look, couple patterns down here. This crab pattern, real sloppy. We do have an HSI under the hop level, but again, it's sloppy. And check it out. I did talk about this the beginning of the month. We had, let me pull this up. Look, we had this really ugly zone trading. There's the completion, comes all the way to the hop. Okay. We get a bearish HSI right there on June 3rd. That June 3rd HSI signal was in a substantial bullish daily harmonic pattern zone. And when you see that, again, more consolidation, more time. And in this instance, when that happened, all the way back down under the hop, that seems to be what's happening in crypto. So until that thing straightens out, comes back down and gives you another signal, be prepared for more consolidation lower. And even the, or at a minimum, the next HSI signal is kind of mandatory if we're going to see anything. The weekly time frame for Nasdaq, all right, that is checking back on a weekly. Take a look. There's the trigger bar on the 23rd, the week of the 23rd. The arrow goes on the close because it lines up with right here. This is HSI indicator. Bring this up. So there's your HSI, and I'm just going to put my clicker, my pointer, where the indicator clearly comes out. We could say it's 23rd of May. Now go back and where's the chart? 23rd of May. Right there. So that sets it up. That's why that the individual bar is critical. All of that. Where we're flirting with it right now, 11,547. Trying to put in a bottom here, checking back in a sloppy way, but really, if you fail underneath the prior low at 11.1, forget about it. It's over. That's another way to understand the limits of where you are, because this thing has confirmed. It's trying to check back within that zone, but it's destroyed. If you close underneath, you get a candle close underneath, oh, I don't know. Yeah, underneath basically 11,000. That should get you going for the larger drop that we talked about, the 7,800. There you go. Looks like this. Still valid. Here you go. 8/8. Yeah. 8/8 swing is like that. 886, 7813. But you need some kind of failure here. Don't forget as well, this is the 50 level. Off of the COVID low. So a good one. A very good midpoint level. But what do we know about B point 50% retracements? They usually become a bat pattern. And that shoots us down to the 886. As long as you can make that formation, which you can, the configuration of a ratios should get you down to basically that 7813. That's a pretty nasty number, but I would not be surprised to see that if we break down recent lows. We go under the 3-week low. Good night. It could happen quickly too. Yep, the software is designed to find the harmonic patterns. So what are harmonic patterns? There's a whole bunch of names, a lot of people wanting to rename certain patterns. No, it's ABCD, Gartley, bat, butterfly, crab, deep crab, shark, and 5-0. That's all on those platforms. But again, start with the trading view. go with the TradingView platform, and then where'd it go? Oh yeah. And then check out things like MetaTrader. This is eSignal, by the way. NinjaTrader's got a good one, Sierra chart. But the Thinkorswim on TradingView is pretty much the same. And with the new PineScript 5, the web version is as accurate and as good in terms of pattern algos as any of the others. So send your username to hpc@sr-analyst.com. Let's look at energy. We popped a little bit today. There's USO on the weekly. Interesting deep crab pattern. I'm looking at this 86.74. Is this a type 1 reaction that's terminating or not? Like this. Should stay on this uptrend for USO. Actually go accelerated like that. But 86.74 is an area I'm looking at. If we can't get above on USO, that might be an issue. This might take more time. Go to the daily. Talked about this yesterday. Steep retracement. Why? Because we had a deep crab right at the top. And this had everything. Look. Terminal bar. Right here. And then confirmation. And then finally check back. That's why this area is the true actionable area. The bar after the arrow, you start looking there. And you go to target 1. That's it. Did its job. HSI came in yesterday. And I mentioned that it would. I mean, yesterday we talked about a lot of those stocks that we're about to confirm. Well, they confirmed, and they're now likely to take you back, retest this pattern zone, and then we go from there. Energy, I still think, is an opportunity. I'm not even with that decline, but I'll still trade it within this framework where we get back to 89, 90 level, maybe as high as 94 with the hop, but we'll see. Depends on where the bearish indicator readings come in. We just came off the bullish. Look at this. Look how deep this oversold area was. I mean, you came out of the zone and you just tanked and you hit the zone and you just spent the better part of almost 2 weeks in that oversold. But once we popped up, which was yesterday, okay, let the return begin. And I'll look at amplified RSI. You get above the 50. That's going to be a really good, strong support. And then standard RSI BAM, much the same way. Trying to get back, trend above 50. Get back to the 70 target. So bring that together. I mean, you're looking at those readings like you're, again, analyzing a cardiogram. Think of it that way. Are you in a reaction mindset or are we a reversal mindset? Do you have indicators to back up those structural realities? Important to go through and just simply ask yourself, where are we within the harmonic pattern framework? Want to bring up one or two crude oil related stocks I didn't talk about last time. Here's Continental Resources. Now, I mentioned this as a long opportunity yesterday of getting it on the radar. This is a type 2 bearish reading. Look, there's your type 1 move. Really nice HSI at target 1. Now we came back to the hop. I would typically look for target 2 on this move. But what would happen? What's one way to negate all of this? If we go sideways and kind of exhaust the pattern. Otherwise, careful. Careful up here. I would prefer to see an HSI signal on the daily before I look for an opportunity on this. It would have to be basically within there. Much like it was, go back, much like it was here after the reaction at 55 went back to 70. That's the deal with Continental Resources. Not to mention weekly time frame, monthly time frame. These are explosive. I mean, really remarkable. CLR trying to get above its all-time high at 80 bucks. If it doesn't get there, and if it rolls over at this 886, I will definitely respect that. Just getting these on the radar. Look at this 886 all-time for Continental Resources. There's your first one. And second one, did it twice, 72.50 on CLR. Not in the right position. I would want that to come in a bit before looking at any of that. UNG, let's look at Nat Gas. First, let's look at Nat Gas futures because they're popping off of the $6 level. We talked about that yesterday, but this is a timely follow-up. Look at yesterday's session. Look at the part 2. That's where we got into it. But look, we triggered HSI right at $6. As I was saying, 6 on the downside, 9 on the top side, support, resistance, respectively. And now you're trying to come back up. All right. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing try to rally off of these lows. That was a heck of a decline. Yeah, from 950 all the way to 6. Looking for a bit of a bounce here on Nat Gas. I said this yesterday. I think UNG is the way to play it for ETFs. You have it down here. We were saying 21 bucks, 22 bucks. I think so, and we could probably bump up to 25, 26 pretty soon on Nat Gas. I did say it's going to take time to get out of that hole, but once it starts, it shouldn't spend much time down here in this 20-something area. Another important question. So, and again, it's just kind of a, you know, a lot of the harmonic pattern ideas, people have tried to throw other things into my harmonic pattern ideas. The question is, do I consider cipher as one of the harmonic patterns? And absolutely not. I really don't know the pattern. It's not me. I didn't create it. But it is something where it doesn't have harmonic properties that I've seen. I haven't tried to do anything with it because I already know what it really is just a B point on a butterfly. And what typically happens in those ciphers is they usually become a shark. Stick with the 4 books, folks. Again, anybody that I wrote most of the books before anybody else did anything in the space. You know, and I own the trademarks and all of that fun stuff, which is really not fun. I'm being facetious. But look, by 2007, when we did Volume 2 and put Volume 2 out, and then in 2010, Financial Times Press republished second editions of Volume 1, Volume 2. I think that's really where it started to take off, get into the mainstream. But go through Volume 2. All of the confirmation strategies are there. The Shark, the 5-0, and then some other RSI BAM strategies are all in that Volume 2. That's another time. You can spend a lot of time in there reviewing, studying. So again, take your time, but do it with the software. And the only patterns are the ones that harmonic patterns are the ones that are in my books. There's other takes on the harmonic patterns, and I don't know. I've seen some crazy white rabbit pattern or whatever. I mean, come on. Let's go. There's a real principle behind. There's a principle behind the patterns that sticks with M and W formations that It goes back to guys like Arthur Merrill, who was a guy, and Ed Levy. Those are two guys from the 60s, 70s that tried to classify M and W zigzags, but no, harmonic patterns with M and W and all of the harmonic ratios all came together in my books from the 90s. Let's go to what did I want to go to next? Oh, someone said dollar index. Why not? Dollar index, I agree. That is the new bull market. Dollar index, we need to go to the monthly time frame. There's big patterns here. Big. Look at this on the monthly. Hop level at 106 on dollar index futures. That's where you go. And we have to come out of the zone. So, doesn't look like this month we're coming out of the zone. What does that tell you? Definitely your 104.26. I would think 106.15 by some point in July before this thing even comes out. Not to mention, what kind of complex structure is that? That's a complex structure. Complex structure and amplified RSI developing. You have 3 of the 4 points. That will likely roll over when HSI does as well. Standard RSI, a double test here. So I would think a little bit higher, and then we roll over. 106.15. 106 generally is the area I'm looking for confirmation. I think that's one we should be paying attention to a lot more. And yes, you can blow above that. You could get above that 106 level and blow off there, but I don't think so. Not with these indicators trying to roll over. You're early, super early, but you are hitting these overbought zones on monthly charts. So we'll be back on Thursday because that is the last day of the month. And we're going to have to really take a hard look at everything. I mean, everything. We're not getting the monthly closes we thought we would get. In crypto, okay, and the major markets, that really then could show up for July and August. So we will come back on Thursday, and we'll talk about the big monthly and quarterly closes. Thursday is going to be huge, so get ready. Come on back. Join me at 12 noon. And again, start your journey, enhance your journey, go to Harmonic Trader and go on the Discord, and then join those resources. Until then, get with me, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thanks again, everybody. Go get them. Have a great one. See